When asked by their host if she would like another drink, the attractive blonde bowed her head slightly and said, "No, thank you. My husband limits me to one drink." "Why is that?" the host asked. Her reply, "Because after one drink I can feel it. After 2 drinks, anyone can." 1. The Southern Lady at the Airport. 2 casually dressed ladies started chatting while waiting at LAX airport. The first lady, a confident California woman married to a wealthy man, began bragging. "When my first child was born," she said, "my husband built me an amazing mansion." The second lady, a polite older woman from the South, smiled and replied, "Well, bless your heart." The California woman continued, "When my second child was born, my husband bought me a fancy Mercedes-Benz." Again the Southern lady said, "Well, bless your heart." The bragging continued, "And when my third child was born, my husband got me this stunning diamond bracelet." Once more the Southern lady chimed in, "Well, bless your heart." Curious, the first woman finally asked, "What did your husband do for you when you had your first child?" The Southern lady replied, "Oh, my husband sent me to charm school." Surprised, the California woman asked, "Charm school? Whatever for?" The Southern lady smiled sweetly and said, "So that instead of saying, 'Who gives a hoot?' I learned to say, 'Well, bless your heart.'" 2. 2 blondes were flying to Miami from Cleveland. 15 minutes into the flight, the captain announced, "One of the engines has failed, and the flight will be an hour longer. But don't worry, we have 3 engines left." 30 minutes later, the captain announced, "One more engine has failed, and the flight will be 2 hours longer. But don't worry, we have 2 engines left." An hour later, the captain announced, "One more engine has failed, and the flight will be 3 hours longer. But don't worry, we have 1 engine left." One blonde looked at the other blonde, and said, "If we lose 1 more engine, we'll be up here all day." 3. Santa's Dilemma. It's Christmas Eve, and snow is falling as Santa delivers gifts. He stops at one house, slides down the chimney, and sees a woman waiting by the tree. "Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!" he says, putting presents under the tree and taking a bite of a cookie. He's just about to head back to the chimney when the woman calls out, "Oh, Santa, can't you stay?" "Ho, ho, ho! Santa's got to go! I need to deliver these gifts," he replies. The woman takes off her shirt, revealing her fit figure, and says, "What about now, Santa?" Santa looks and repeats, "Ho, ho, ho! Santa's got to go! I need to deliver these gifts." The woman then takes off her skirt. "And now, Santa?" Once again he looks and says, "Ho, ho, ho! Santa's got to go! I need to deliver these gifts." Finally, she takes everything off and stands there saying, "What about now, Santa?" Santa takes a long look, scratches his head, and says, "Ho, ho, ho! Looks like Santa's gotta stay. I don't think I can fit up the chimney like this." 4. 2 men, one a brunette and the other a blonde, were comparing their luck picking up girls at the beach. The brunette guy says, "What works for me is this. Go to a grocery store, buy a potato, and put it in your swim trunk." The blonde guy thanks him and spends the next 5 hours roaming the beach with a potato in his swim trunks, with no luck. He says to his brunette friend that he did put a potato in his swim trunks and had no luck. The brunette guy says to the blonde guy, "You asshole! The potato goes in the front of your trunks, not the back." 5. The foreman's miscommunication. A foreman at a construction site goes over instructions for his 3 workers for the day: an Irishman, an Englishman, and a Chinese man. He tells the Irishman, "I need you to shovel this pile of gravel into the truck while I'm gone for a few hours." Then he turns to the Englishman and says, You need to sweep up all the dust from the cement. Make sure the floor is spotless when I get back. Finally, he says to the Chinese man, you're in charge of supplies. Make sure everyone gets what they need. With that, the foreman leaves. When he returns, he sees that the gravel is still there, and the floor is still dusty. He finds the Irishman and asks, "Why didn't you shovel the gravel?" The Irishman replies, "I would have, but I didn't have a shovel. The Chinese guy was supposed to give it to me, but I haven't seen him." The foreman then goes to the Englishman and asks, "What about you? Why isn't the floor swept?" The Englishman says, "I can't sweep without a broom and dustpan. The Chinese man hasn't given them to me, and I've been looking for him for hours." So the foreman, the Irishman, and the Englishman go searching. Just then the Chinese man jumps out from behind a pillar and shouts, "Supplies! 6!" Bob joins a very exclusive new colony. On his first day, a gorgeous petite blonde walks by him, and he immediately gets an arrest. The woman notices his arrest, comes over to him grinning sweetly, and says, "Sir, did you call for me?" Bob replies, "No. What do you mean?" She says, "You must be new here. Let me explain. It's a rule here that if I give you an arrest, it implies you called for me." Smiling, she then leads him to the side of the pool, lays down on a towel, eagerly pulls him to her, and happily lets him have his way with her. Bob continues exploring the facilities. He enters a sauna, sits down, and within a few moments, a huge, horribly corpulent, hairy man with a firm lumbers out of the steam towards him. The huge man says, "Sir, did you call for me?" Bob replies, "No. What do you mean?" "You must be new here. It is a rule that when you fart, it implies you called for me." The huge man then easily spins Bob around, bends him over the bench, and has his way with him. Bob rushes back to the colony office. He is greeted by the smiling, naked receptionist. "May I help you?" Bob says, "Here is your card and key back. You can keep the $500 joining fee." "But, sir, you've only been here a couple of hours. You only saw a small fraction of our facilities." Bob replies, "Listen, lady, I am 58 years old. I get a hard-on about once a month, but I fart 15 times a day. No, thanks." 7. The Hippie and the Porsche. A hippie with a broken-down bike is walking by the side of the road when a man in a Porsche stops and offers him a lift. They try to fit the bike in the trunk, but it's too small. The man gets an idea and says, "I've got some rope. Tie it to your bike and I'll drive. If I go too fast, just honk the horn." The hippie agrees and they hit the road. They stop at a traffic light next to a man in a Lamborghini, and they both start revving their engines, ready to race. When the light turns green, the man in the Porsche forgets about the hippie and speeds off. They zoom down the road, hitting 80, 90, even 100 miles per hour. A cop sees them and radios in, "Dispatch, you won't believe what I just saw. A Porsche and a Lamborghini are racing, and there's a hippie on a bike behind them, honking his horn, trying to catch up." 8. The Bar. A man is about to head out to the bar when his wife stops him and says, "You're not going there again. Last time you came home with puke all over your shirt." The husband replies, "I know, but I really want to hang out with my friends. I promise I won't drink anything." She thinks for a moment and then lets him go. When he gets to the bar, he orders a Coke with ice. One of his friends notices something's off and asks him what's up. The man shares his story, and his friend says, "Listen, here's what you should do. Have a few beers with us. If you end up puking on your shirt again, just say some drunk got you and gave you $10 for it." The man thinks it's a clever plan and quickly grabs a pint. Later that night, he stumbles home at 3 a.m., and his wife is waiting, furious. "I knew it! You got drunk and puked on your shirt again," she says. No, he replies quickly. "Some drunk puked on me, but look, he gave me $10 for my shirt." She looks at him puzzled and asks, "If that's true, then why do you have two $10 bills in your hand?" The man responds, "Oh, the other 10 is from the guy who soiled my pants." 9. The legal question. A young law student fails his exam and approaches his very serious professor, known for his sharp legal mind. "Sir, do you really understand everything about law?" asks the student. "Of course I do," the professor replies. "Otherwise I wouldn't be a professor, would I?" "Great," the student says. "I have a question for you. If you answer it correctly, I'll accept my grade. But if you can't answer, you have to give me an A." The professor agrees. "All right. What's the question?" The student asks, "What is legal but not logical, logical but not legal, and neither logical nor legal?" The professor thinks hard but can't find the answer. Eventually, he gives the student an A, and the student leaves, happy. Later, the professor is still stumped by the question, so he decides to ask a group of his smartest students. What is legal but not logical, logical but not legal, and neither logical nor legal? He asks. Surprisingly, all the students immediately raise their hands. The professor picks his favorite student, who says, "It's simple, sir. You're 75 years old and married to a 30-year-old woman, which is legal but not logical. Your wife has a 22-year-old lover, which is logical but not legal. And her lover flunked his exam, but you just gave him an A, which is neither legal nor logical." 10. A guy was feeling a little nervous about his first annual prostate exam. He'd heard some uncomfortable stories and thought, maybe I should try something different. So, while on vacation in Thailand, he decided to get the test done there, as he'd heard the nurses were known for being extra gentle and friendly. He goes to a fancy clinic, and as usual, he's told to take off his clothes. He lies down naked on his side, feeling a bit exposed. The nurse begins the exam, and as she works, she casually says, "At this point in the exam, it's pretty common to get an erection." Surprised, the man quickly responds, "But I don't have an erection." The nurse just smiles and replies, "Oh, I know, but I do.